Most doctors are still telling you your joints are just wearing out, but that's not the whole story. What's actually happening inside your body right now is far more alarming and far more fixable. Because here's the truth, your joints aren't aging, they're under attack. If you wake up every morning stiff, achy, and moving like you're 30 years older than you are, it's not inevitable. It's not genetics, and it is absolutely not just part of getting older. Science has now identified the 3 hidden mechanisms silently destroying your joints from the inside out: systemic inflammation, glycation, and uric acid crystallization. And the worst part? You're probably eating the exact foods that trigger all 3 of them every single day without realizing it. In this episode, we're breaking down the 7 inflammatory foods that are aging your arthritis twice as fast. And once you know what they are, you can't unknow it. Stay with us. This one will change how you eat breakfast tomorrow.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We have a really interesting and I've got to say a slightly terrifying stack of research to get through today.
Yeah, this one is a bit of a paradigm shift.
It is. I want to start with a concept that, I'm not kidding, it actually made me just pause and stare at the wall for a second. It's this idea of a pattern interrupt. Usually when we talk about joint pain, knees clicking, hips feeling stiff in the morning, the whole creaky feeling, we have this very ingrained mental model. We think of tires on a car.
Right, the classic wear and tear model. You drive the car for 50,000 miles, the tread wears down, it's mechanical, it's, inevitable.
Exactly. We tell ourselves, well, I played soccer in high school, or I'm just getting older. It feels like a math equation. Miles plus time equals pain.
But the documents we are looking at today, specifically the 2026 Protocol for Joint Longevity and Mobility, they just completely reject that premise.
They don't just reject it, they dismantle it.
Yeah.
The core argument here is that what we call aging in our joints isn't usually mechanical wear. It's a chemical attack.
A chemical attack?
Yeah, it sounds so dramatic, almost like sci-fi. But when you dig into the biochemistry they lay out, it's actually terrifyingly practical. They're arguing that we are, in a way, dissolving our own cartilage with what we eat for lunch.
And that changes the stakes entirely. If your knee hurts because you ran a marathon, that's physics. Fine. But if your knee hurts because your immune system is bombarding the cartilage with inflammatory cytokines caused by your breakfast.
Well, that's biology.
That's biology. And the good news is, unlike the mileage on a car, biology can be hacked.
And that's the mission for this deep dive. We aren't just going to list good foods and bad foods. We really need to understand the mechanism. The source material uses these incredibly visceral metaphors, caramelizing your tendons and cellular rust.
Yeah, they're memorable.
So before we even get to the food list, we have to map out the battlefield. The protocol identifies 3 joint killers.
And these are the 3 biological mechanisms that drive almost all non-injury joint pain. If you don't understand these, the diet advice it sounds like random noise. You have to grasp the why.
Okay, so let's start with killer number 1. Systemic inflammation. Now, we hear this word inflammation constantly. It's become such a buzzword in wellness.
It really has.
But what is actually happening in the joint capsule when we say we are inflamed?
Think of it as friendly fire. Inflammation is supposed to be a good thing, a healing response. You cut your finger, it gets red and swollen because your immune system is rushing in to repair it. That's acute inflammation.
Good stuff.
But systemic inflammation is when that switch gets stuck in the on position. Your immune system gets confused and starts identifying your own connective tissue as a threat.
So it's just a state of constant low-grade warfare inside the body.
Precisely. And in that state, your body releases enzymes, specifically things like matrix metalloproteinases that actually chew up cartilage.
Wait, let me get this straight. We produce enzymes specifically designed to eat our own shock absorbers.
When the inflammation signal is high, yes. Your body thinks it's clearing out damaged tissue, but because the signal never turns off, it eventually just starts degrading healthy tissue.
It's like a demolition crew that doesn't know when to stop swinging the sledgehammer.
That's a great analogy.
That is disturbing.
Now,
But it explains why just popping an ibuprofen doesn't fix the root cause. Okay, so that's the baseline. Killer number 2. This is where that caramelizing image comes in. Glycation.
this one is fascinating because you can actually see it happening in your kitchen. Glycation is a chemical bonding process. When you have excess sugar floating around in your bloodstream, those sugar molecules are sticky. They latch onto proteins and fats, and they refuse to let go.
And since cartilage and tendons are made of collagen,
Which is a protein, exactly. The sugar bonds to the collagen. The source material uses the analogy of toast. You know, bread is soft and flexible. You put it in the toaster, you apply heat, a chemical reaction happens, and it comes out hard and brittle.
so that's what glycation is doing to my tendons.
Essentially, yes.
So when I wake up and feel stiff, like I can't quite straighten my leg, it's not just that the joint is dry. The tissue itself has structurally changed.
It has cross-linked. It's become like a dried-out rubber band. If you pull a fresh rubber band, it stretches. If you pull a dried-out one,
It snaps.
it snaps. That's a glycated tendon. It loses its elasticity.
That brings a whole new meaning to sugar crash. It's crashing your structural integrity. Okay, killer number 3, uric acid crystallization.
This is physically the most painful one. Uric acid is a waste product. Your kidneys are supposed to filter it out. But if you have too much or your kidneys are distracted, and we'll get into why they get distracted, that acid has to go somewhere.
And it settles in the joints.
It settles in the joints, but it doesn't stay liquid. It crystallizes.
The source describes these as microscopic shards.
They look like needles under a microscope. It's the mechanism behind gout, but the protocol suggests this happens at a subclinical level for millions of people. You might not have full-blown gout where your toe is on fire, but you have grit in your gears.
So to recap the 3 killers before we hit the food, we have an immune system that's confused and attacking us. We have sugar that is basically baking our tendons brittle. And we have waste products turning into sandpaper in our joint fluid.
A cheerful picture, isn't it?
It's a horror movie. But this sets the stage perfectly for the deep dive proper. The source lists the 7 worst foods that trigger these killers. They call this the razor blade effect.
A good name for it.
And I want to go through these carefully because some of them are things people think are healthy or at least harmless. Let's start with number 7, processed meats. Bacon, deli ham, beef jerky, hot dogs.
Right.
Usually we're told to avoid these because of sodium or nitrates, but the protocol highlights something different. AGs.
AGES. Advanced glycation end products. We just talked about glycation, that baking process. Well, processed meats are preloaded with the end result of that process. When you cure meat, smoke it, or process it at high heat, you're creating these compounds before you even eat them.
So you're essentially eating rust.
The source calls it cellular rust, yeah. And when you digest this, those compounds travel to your joints and lodge there. They act as a beacon for that inflammatory immune response we talked about. They trigger a marker called interleukin-6.
So you eat a slice of bacon and your body reads it as an invasion.
It tells the immune system, we are under attack, send in the enzymes.
There was a really practical tip here about packaging that stuck with me. The plastic shingle packs.
Right. If you're buying meat, look at the shelf life. If it can sit in your fridge for 3 weeks in a plastic vacuum pack, it is probably loaded with AGGs. The actionable swap is fresh, pasture-raised cuts.
If it looks like it came from a butcher, you're safer.
Exactly. If it looks like it came from a factory, it's probably inflammatory.
Okay, moving to number 6. This one is going to hurt some feelings. Alcohol. But specifically, the mechanism involving the gut.
This is the connection most people miss. They think alcohol causes joint pain because of dehydration. Oh, I'm just dried out, I need water. But the science here points to the gut lining.
The leaky gut theory.
Yeah.
I feel like this term gets thrown around a lot, but what's the actual biology?
Think of your gut lining as a very, very fine net. It lets nutrients through, but it keeps toxins out. Alcohol, specifically ethanol, thins that net. It damages the tight junctions between the cells.
So the holes in the net get bigger.
Right. And that allows bacterial toxins, specifically something called LPS, or polysaccharides, to escape the gut and get into the bloodstream.
And where do they end up?
They love to settle in the synovium, the lining of the joints.
So you have bacterial toxins from your gut literally migrating to your knees.
And your immune system goes crazy trying to kill them. The source uses the visual of pouring gasoline on an arthritic fire. If you already have a little inflammation, this just creates a bonfire.
But the source mentions a U-shaped curve. Is total abstinence the only way?
Not necessarily for everyone. The data suggests a very small amount might be neutral, but the tipping point is surprisingly low. More than 2 drinks a day seems to be where that gut permeability really spikes.
And they recommend a reset if you're feeling stiff.
A 14-day dry reset, yeah. If you have chronic stiffness, just give your gut lining 2 weeks to heal those tight junctions. The claim is that you'll see morning stiffness just vanish.
Fascinating. Let's go to number 5, the heavy hitter, Refined sugars.
We touched on this with glycation, but we need to look at high fructose corn syrup specifically. This is the main caramelizing agent.
The worst of the worst.
It is. In the lab, when they expose connective tissue to high levels of glucose and fructose, the collagen fibers physically change shape. They become disorganized. Instead of neat parallel lines, they look like a tangled mess.
What I found really interesting here is the warning about low-fat foods. This feels like a trap so many of us fall into.
That's the classic trap. You buy the low-fat fruit yogurt or the heart-healthy cereal bars because you're trying to do the right thing. But when manufacturers take out the fat, they lose the flavor and the mouthfeel. So what do?
Pump it full of sugar.
Exactly. So you think you're saving your heart, but you're crystallizing your knees. You are flooding your system with the exact molecule that breaks down collagen structure.
So you have to read the sugar content, not just the calories.
You have to.
All right, number 4. This is a huge topic in nutrition right now. Seed oils.
Wow.
Soybean, corn, cottonseed oil.
This one's controversial, and we need to be nuanced. The source is pretty clear that these oils aren't instantly toxic, like, arsenic. The problem isn't the oil itself, it's the ratio.
The omega-6 to omega-3 ratio.
You're right. Omega-6 fats are pro-inflammatory. Now, you actually need some of them. If you get a cut, you need that inflammation to heal it. But omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. They turn the signal off.
And evolutionarily, that balance was pretty even.
About 1-to-1. 1 part on switch, 1 part off switch. The modern diet, loaded with seed oils and everything from salad dressing to crackers, is about 20-to-1.
So the inflammation switch is just taped to the on position.
That's the analogy. Your cell membranes are literally built from the fats you eat. If you build your house out of flammable material, don't be surprised when it catches fire easily.
I love the idea of crowding out here. It's not just about cutting the bad, it's about displacement.
Exactly. You don't just eliminate, you replace. If you flood the system with avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil, you are providing the building blocks for fluid, flexible cell membranes.
Okay, on to number 3. The hidden trans fats. I thought we banned these. I thought trans fats were gone.
We banned partially hydrogenated oils. But the food industry is clever. They need cookies to stay soft on a shelf for 6 months. So now they use something called intrasterified fats.
That is a mouthful. Intrasterified.
It is, and biologically, they act very similarly to the old trans fats. They are in what the source calls the ultra-processed crunch, anything that comes in a box and stays crispy forever.
And the marker to watch here is CRP.
C-reactive protein. It's the master marker for body-wide pain. These fats spike CRP aggressively. So even if the box says 0-gram trans fat, if the ingredient list looks like a chemistry final, it's probably spiking your inflammation.
Okay, number 2, the razor blade trigger, purine overload. Now, usually when people hear purines, they think of, rich old kings with gout eating pheasant.
That's the stereotype for sure. Purines break down into that uric acid we talked about, the shards.
So shellfish and organ meats are the classic culprits.
They are. But the protocol makes a crucial distinction that I think is the most valuable nugget in this whole section. It's not just the meat, it's the pairing.
The pairing of purines with sugar.
Specifically fructose. This is a biochemical tragedy. Fructose inhibits the kidney's ability to excrete uric acid. So imagine you eat a burger, which has purines, and you wash it down with a soda.
You're loading the gun with a burger and pulling the trigger with a soda.
Perfectly put. If you just ate the burger with water, your kidneys might handle it. But the soda paralyzes the exit door. The uric acid has nowhere to go, so it builds up in the blood, crystallizes, and you get that walking on glass sensation.
So if you have joint pain, the soda has to go. Maybe even more than the red meat.
The source suggests the sugar is the bigger villain because it disables the filtration system.
Okay, we've arrived at the end of the no list. We've taken away the bacon, the soda, the pastries, the seed oils. Sounds a little depressing.
Yeah, it does.
But we aren't just leaving everyone with an empty plate. The protocol includes the solution, the replacement protocol.
This is the 2026 Joint Longevity Plate. And it's not just about avoidance, it's about active repair, giving the body the tools to fix the damage.
Let's start with the first item, the bioavailable spice, turmeric.
Turmeric is fantastic, potent anti-inflammatory. But there is a huge catch that most people miss, and it renders most supplements pretty much useless.
This is the activation key.
Right. Curcumin, the active compound, is very hard for the body to absorb. If you just eat turmeric powder, you excrete almost all of it. It passes right through you.
So what do you do?
You need piperine, which is found in black pepper, to boost absorption by something like 2,000%. And you need a fat source.
Because it's fat soluble.
Yes. So a golden milk with coconut milk and black pepper is medicine. A dry turmeric capsule might just be expensive dust.
That is such a crucial detail. Next up, the anthocyanin balm.
Yeah.
Tart cherries and blueberries.
Anthocyanins are the pigments that make them dark blue or red, and they're distinct from other antioxidants because they specifically target uric acid.
So they help dissolve the shards.
They lower the levels of uric acid in the blood, which prevents the crystallization in the first place. So dessert is back on the menu. It's just berries instead of cake.
I can live with that.
Yeah.
Third item, the omega reset. We talked about the bad ratio. This is the fix.
Cold water fish,
Yeah.
salmon, sardines, mackerel. You need high doses of omega-3s to force that 20-to-1 ratio back toward 1-to-1.
It's like sending in the firefighters to put out the inflammation fire.
Exactly. You are physically changing the composition of your cell membranes, making them more fluid again.
And finally, the enzyme inhibitor, green tea.
This one's my favorite. It's about a compound called EGCG. The protocol suggests 3 cups a day.
Why 3 cups specifically?
That seems to be the clinical dose that inhibits those MMT enzymes we talked about earlier, the ones that literally eat cartilage. EGCG basically handcuffs those enzymes.
So while you're fixing the diet, the green tea acts as a shield for the cartilage you have left.
Joint armor. That's a good way to think about it.
So let's synthesize all of this. We started with the idea that joint pain is inevitable wear and tear. But the source material argues it's a feedback loop.
You input inflammatory foods, sugar, seed oils, processed meats, and the output is pain, stiffness, and degeneration.
But the empowering part is that you have agency here.
That's the big takeaway. The stiffness isn't a life sentence, it's a signal. It's your body screaming that the input is wrong. If you change the input, if you adopt this replacement protocol, you change the output.
You aren't just a car losing tread, you're a biological system that can repair itself.
Exactly.
Now, before we sign off, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought that the source hinted at, which I found really provocative. We've been talking about joints. But if wear and tear is largely a myth covering for dietary inflammation, what else is?
Right. If you can reverse joint aging by fixing inflammation, what about brain fog? What about skin elasticity?
Is your forgetfulness just neural inflammation? Is your fatigue just metabolic inflammation? How many symptoms of just getting old are actually just getting inflamed?
That is the big question, and I suspect the answer is most of them.
Something to think about while you're brewing that green tea with a pinch of black pepper.
Definitely.
That's it for this deep dive into the 2026 protocol. We encourage you to try the swaps, maybe just for 2 weeks, and see if your mobility changes. We'll be back next time with another stack of research. Stay curious.
And stay mobile.